So, I would like to recapture my experience at the protests in Elizabeth City yesterday. Um, and so I left the house around, I want to say 2-ish p.m. Um, and so when I left the house, I traveled to the Mick-Ass Donald's, which is known for one, stealing money from the people that live in the city. Two, killing people. If you eat at McDonald's, you are killing yourself. That is factual. I apologize if that offends you. And then three, like, it's McDonald's. Like, Jesus Christ. If you're gonna get fast food, like, my God. Like, that's dumpster sludge, bottom of the barrel bullshit. Anyway, so that's my opinion on McDonald's. So there's a bunch of police cars. There's this like unmarked like truck here, right? That's like super big and super scary, and it kept like driving around like really close to people. Freaked me out a little bit. And then they had all this bullshit. And then so there's the McDonald's, and I am traveling at the time of this photograph. I am traveling toward the McDonald's. Except when I took this photograph, I was not there yet. But in the next photograph, you'll see that I was there. And so I arrive at this intersection, and so there's a dog there, very nice dog. Speaking of very nice dogs, hey buddy, I gotta bring Max to one of these. Except I wouldn't, because Max is too unstable. Right, Max? You're unstable. You're crazy. Anyway, so yeah, basically, the idea here is we've got like basically one main road in our town of commerce. And what I mean by that is like we're talking about like chain restaurants. Now there's a lot of like locally owned businesses in downtown Elizabeth City, but like this is like the main road where you got like the McDonald's, the Burger King, the Wendy's, right? This is like Heart Attack Avenue, motherfucker. You drive down this shit and you will die of diabetes by the time you get to the end of the road. And I'm not even joking, man. Like, this shit is crazy, right? And again, all these corporations, right? They're not locally owned businesses. The money that you spend at McDonald's isn't going back into Elizabeth City. It's going to fucking shit fuck motherfuck in some rich kids' fucking pockets, right? And so this is something that I wanted to talk on right now. That, we during later parts of the protest, we are actually constructing a list of all businesses that support the protests, and we are going to try to boycott all the businesses that do not support the protests in Elizabeth City. And so we had a couple of local business owners at the protests, and so we're constructing a list of who to support, who not to support, who to spend money on, who not to spend money on, and that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to throw that out there. And so anyway, so we shut down McDonald's. Everyone at McDonald's that was working there left. And so rip. Sorry about your luck, buddy. But yeah, so that's basically what we're doing. Around this point, there was some like, like this is basically early in the day. This is this big truck I mentioned earlier. Like, again, it was just kind of like, driving really close to people. It was like really strange. It was like, I don't know, man. It was like really weird, and I don't like that kind of shit. So anyway, so around this time, we basically meet at the intersection on the main road, and then we travel toward City Hall because they're planning yet another emergency session. And newsflash, spoiler alert, the emergency session provided nothing. They provided absolutely nothing. So, but, so we're going there. They got police. The police presence, I would say, was probably less than Thursday. Yesterday was Friday. Today is that. So I would say Thursday probably had more police presence than yesterday, at least that I saw. So I'm just throwing that out there. It's possible that they just, took a day off because they're tired, or it's possible that they realized that there's no violence going on in these protests. That's all very possible. And so, but anyway, so they still had their little barricades. They had their little, whatever the fuck that is, there's something going on. Who cares? And so, here I am. We're just waiting outside of the city hall. And that's the city hall building. I was staring at it for a while. I just want to say, like, I love the arches here. They're just so very interesting. Anyway, so after that, then basically they come out and they tell us nothing's happening. So, we do like a little demonstration, and we basically there's a bunch of like news cameras here, so a bunch of people get in front and basically say how what the city council is advocating for is not good enough. Now I want to also point out that the city council in Elizabeth City, has two interesting, segments, and so all of the white council members did not show up to the city council meeting, and instead, to my understanding, were shit talking about protests on Facebook and getting into boomer circle jerks on Facebook. And now, again, this isn't just some of the white city council members. It is every single white city council member boycotted the emergency session and just talked about how, like, the rioters and looters are an angry mob and they're evil on Facebook. So, just throwing that out there. It's no good, folks. So basically, after the city council basically decides that they're not going to do anything whatsoever, and so I want to be very clear, they did start the process and the procedure to release the body camera footage in a legal fashion. They have the court order, the injunction, whatever the fuck that shit is. And so they are going about the technical legal process, right? So I do want to say that that is what they are doing. And so, yes, is that a good thing? Absolutely. Should they be more transparent? Of course, right? Should the city council people be marching with us? Absolutely. Should the city council people be going home and talking about how the angry mob is occupying the city and how they're stopping kids from getting to soccer practice? No, right? And so that's what I want from the city council. I want the city council to be leaders, and I want them to be, directing the movement in a good fashion. But they are just kind of getting their press conferences. Some of them are like kind of lingering in the crowds, but most of them are just kind of, chillaxing. I haven't seen many of them, but I've seen some of them in the crowds at some point, so I just want to throw that out there. And so not all city council members, right? But, a good chunk of them. So at this point, we marched down to the waterfront. And for those of you that don't know, we have a waterfront, right? And it's really nice and it's beautiful. So we marched down to the waterfront, and we do a little ceremony. I'm not a religious person, right? I would even go as far as to say I do not like religion in any capacity whatsoever. But they did a little prayer thing, and they did like a balloon release. Now, again, I disagree with balloon releases on the environmental impact, but hey, it's a nice symbolic gesture, and I appreciated it, and I was there for it. I didn't film any of it because I just didn't film any of it. But anyway, so after that, what we did is the waterfront is right next to this bridge, and this is the bridge that connects the neighboring area with our area, which, to my understanding, is where some of the police officers, the deputies, came over. To my understanding. Now, that's my understanding. Again, the details seem to be changing as time goes on. The first day they said Andrew was, they were trying to execute a search warrant. Then they leveled it up to an arrest warrant. Then they said it was a search warrant and an arrest warrant. Now it's only an arrest warrant, right? So they're changing the story all the time. But either way, so we shut down the bridge. And for those of you that don't know, the only other method of getting, from our place to what's on the other side of the bridge requires a 30-minute detour, right? So a bunch of boomers on Facebook, not happy about that. They were not satisfied with that, in any capacity. And so that was very entertaining. And so this was my favorite part. And in fact, I used this for the thumbnail today. There was a doggy that had no justice, no treats, thing on them. And this doggy, started to get a little bit uppity, I will say. And I'm a friend to all dogs. But they started barking as soon as someone brought out a loudspeaker and a microphone. Just the signal and the audio frequencies, the dog did not get along with it, so they started barking, and then unfortunately the owner had to leave. And that's why I don't bring dogs to protests. Like, they're cute, they're adorable. I love the dog. I wanted to hug that dog. But at the same time, bringing dogs to protests, it's just not something I would do personally. Especially, with that guy. Look at that guy. You see this guy? Look at that guy, man. I'm not bringing that dog to a protest. I love that dog. If something happened to Max, like if cops started getting out and shooting people, and something happened to Max, or if I like if I lost Max, or I would kill myself. I would jump. I would literally, right. You see how this is a bridge, right? This is why I was so close to the bridge, because if I if I were to have lost Max, I would have just jumped off the bridge, right? So I just throwing that out there. Now again, I'm not trying to shit talk anyone for bringing their dog, but I'm just saying like it's probably not the best idea. So we occupied the bridge for about what seemed like about an hour. And people were, we had a loudspeaker system. People were getting up, and people were, telling their stories, how they knew Andrew Brown, and like that kind of scenario, and that kind of stuff, and like basically just trying to strategize and hype people up and try to say that we are the ones that are in control of this city. It is not the police, and it is certainly not like state police or anyone else that wants to come into the city and pretend that they have authority over us. And at this point was where I learned, because at this point, this is where I learned that apparently Governor Roy Cooper has announced that he is supportive of releasing the body camera footage. Now, again, I don't really know what the governor's powers are, but last time I checked, he's the governor. So like I feel like he has some power here in any capacity to possibly, get that shit out there. But, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And I'll go into more of that later. And so we, from the bridge, start marching through downtown. And so we just kind of march through downtown and just kind of zigzag throughout the entire city. And we then, at that point, again, block the main road of commerce, again, where all these chain restaurants are. And so around this point, I go home because I needed to use the bathroom and I was really hungry. And, I don't want to dox myself, but my house is somewhat, kind of, not really, you don't know where I live, close to this location. Just kidding, it's not actually. But so I decided to, get someone to drive me home in some capacity because my house is nowhere close to this location. But either way, so I go home for a bathroom break. And so I come back out. And so from my understanding, they occupied this city for about what looks like an hour to 2 hours. And so I went home. I used the bathroom. I ate some dinner. I made some pasta, man. I made some delicious pasta. Some nutritious, beautiful carbohydrates to fuel me for the rest of the night. And then as I was, being driven back into town, because I live 40 minutes away from Elizabeth City. I am nowhere near this location. I do not live anywhere close to here, right? So, like, don't go looking for me or anything. But, so after I arrived back at the scene, they just so happened, right, to be marching backwards, right, back into the city. And so I managed to catch up with them. And then so we marched all the way down to the sheriff's office. And that was pretty interesting. It was getting dark. And, of course, the sheriff was not there. And so then at that point, we organized and planned for what will be day 4, and that is today. And I will not be telling you what day 4 is. And, so you'll have to wait. You'll have to wait and find out, right? Because I don't know who's watching this goddamn stream, right? And that's basically my experience at the protest. I think it was pretty good. You can definitely feel that the cops are being worn down. You can definitely feel that a lot of the major businesses are getting uppity and cringy. But again, we also have some local businesses that are supporting us. And so I think that one of the best possible methods of protesting is to boycott certain businesses. And if a business owner is going on Facebook talking about how black people are running through the streets, stealing things and boarding up their windows, chances are I'm not going to want to spend money on them. I'm not going to want to give them money. I'm not going to want to support them. And no one else should as well. But when you've got businesses, there are also businesses bringing out water, bringing out snacks, food, like actual, like genuine food, like not just like, snacks, but like actual food. Now, again, this food was meat-based, so I have heavily disagreement with that. It was also, with white bread, heavy disagreement on white bread and meat, but hey, that's just me. I'm not going to eat that shit. But either way, so there were a lot of local businesses supporting us and bringing us resources, water, anything that we would need. And so we're going to try to organize a list of businesses to boycott and a list of businesses to support. And so once we do have an actual list that I can actually find, I would be glad to share that as well. And so throw that out there. But yeah, that was my experience, and so If anyone has any questions, feel free to let me know. And I'll be out there again today, and I'm looking forward to being out there again today. And we've got some pretty interesting plans for the protests today, and so I will keep you all updated. And if you want to follow this stuff live, you can follow me on Twitter, and that will be linked in the description. And that is all. That is it.